All right. And in this to-do list, we're going to combine together the things we have reviewed and use it to create this to-do list. So we're going to be combining the array, the object, everything into this singular um, mini projects. So we'll first have our heading. We'll just call it uh, to, well, I don't know whether it's like this or somewhere else. No, but let me put it this way. To-do lists. We're going to have input field. We're going to have a button, and we're going to have, so we got our input. Okay, let's leave it at this. We have our button, and lastly we're going to have our unordered lists. So this is what we did yesterday, and let's just call this task list, something like this. Let me be sure that we're on the same page. Guys, can you hear me? Or you can see my screen? Okay. So our input field is going to be type texts. This we already know. Yeah, because we're going to be putting our task there, and then we'll give it an ID. Let's call this task input, and just give it a placeholder, and in this placeholder we just call it enter task. Okay, and the button, we're going to add task here. Okay, so something like this is cool. I think that will be all the HTML we need for now. Yeah, and we can now move on to the script path. First, here we are going to need an array to hold task. Somebody is popping up. Who is that? So, oh, so we're first going to need an array to hold all our tasks. Okay, and for us to get an array that we can update often, we need to use the let keyword, and let's just call it tasks, and we set it to an empty array. So for now we'll put it this way, and then we'll just leave it like that. And then we're going to create a function. This function, we call it add task. So this is the function that would help us push our task to the array, and we're going to add on click. Come on, we're going to add on click here, and inside the on click we're going to call this on add task function. Okay, just like that. Then, so in case I didn't come back up again, I know that I'm done with that. Now, what exactly do we need to add inside this function? First of all, we want to grab our document object model. We have the button right here, and we have the button and we have the input field. So first we'll grab the inputs. Let's just call it inputs. All right, and we're going to do documents dot get element by id. So the id right here is task inputs. Yes, that's what we have inside here, task inputs. So okay, what's going on? Okay, task input, that is our input field. And the next thing is, let's just do something here. What we have here is new task, so we're going to call it input dot value. So let's keep an eye on this. Let's keep an eye on what I'm doing here, so that we'll be able to ask our questions. So this is our input field. We are accessing our input field inside this input, and with this new task we want to get the value. So I could simply come over here and say dot value, okay, dot trim, like this. So if I do that, this second line becomes unnecessary, okay, but there's a reason why I left it like this. So let's keep going. Now we are gonna say, if for instance the new task, alright, if the new task is empty, remember we're not going to be fair. If the new task is empty, we now use the return keyword, return nothing. So this means if the new task is empty, don't do anything, okay. And then that is the first thing we check. If the new task is empty, that's what this does. Do nothing, don't return anything. So we want to be sure that we are not pushing or we are not submitting an empty task. That's what the line does for us. Okay, now we are going to create an array who goes there. Okay, so now we're going to create an array and push an array of new task. Okay, remember our tasks here is an empty array, so we're not going to say tasks dot push. Okay, what is this push doing for us? This push is just the push is used to add an item into an array, just like pop will remove it, push add to an array. And now what we want to push is not just an item, we want to push an object. And because it's an object, I'm going to do this. Okay, and then I bring in the key of the object, and the value is nothing but the new task. So the new task is going to be the value, and then let's add something here and then put this to false. Okay, let's close this here. If you have question, no problem, we have time to ask the questions. All right, when we are done pushing, right, we need to clear our input. So we're gonna say input dot value. Right here we should just set it to an empty string this way. Then there is something else we're going to add, but I'm not going to create it yet. So right here I'm going to, this is going to be a function, but I've not created a function yet. So what this function will do for us is to render task to the screen. All right, so before we test, I'm going to create I'm going to create the function first. So right here I'm going to call it render task this way. So inside this render task, our task is being rendered on this UL element. So I'm going to call the UL element UL element with let me put this UL was to document dot get element by ID. The ID of this one is task list. Okay, and we are now going to access, this time around is not inner text but inner HTML. So what do I need to do with the inner HTML? So you have to get rid of, before you add anything to the list, you need to clear it up. So that is exactly what this is doing. So anywhere you see this, you're just trying to clear up something, either a list or anything else. All right, so now let's use our for each loop. Let's use our for each loop and then do something here. Tasks, which in this case is our array dot for each. Remember, that's how we've been doing. So we pick our array and then we pass in our callback function. This callback function is going to take two parameters. One is going to be task because it's looping through tasks, and second one we just pass in index like this. So remember, you can use arrow function if you so desire, but it's up to you. So let's go ahead and create our list element. Dot create element, sorry, create element. So the element we are going to create is nothing but our lists this way. And so now let me leave this comment empty first. I'll come back to it. We are going to now say lists dot inner HTML. We give this task dot completed. Okay, now we're going to use our ternary operator. I do this. If it is completed, what do I need to do? Let me get the backtick. I'll do just something like this, and where is that again? I'll do this. I'm gonna put task dot text this way, and I'm going to do, sorry, I'm going to do this. Okay, otherwise, so here I'm just going to add task.text like this. Okay, all right, at this point let's add something and we test just like I did yesterday. We're gonna append child, and what we're appending is the lists goes there. Okay, let's see whether we have any issue before we ask question. I'm gonna refresh and I type this and I click wow, and I do this and I click okay. Now I refresh. Remember, this is not a database, so on refresh everything is going to clear up. Let me task 1 and it's added, task 2 and it's added, task 3 and it's added. Beautiful. Are we all seeing this? Are we following? Yeah, Chibundo, questions?
So that's the line, maybe line 28 or 29, where we have input dot value. I don't understand what it's doing there. Before render text function. Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. What this is doing is this. Let me clear it up first. All right. I save. I type. Click. I seen it. We have it here and we have it here. So what this line is doing is just to clear up our inputs field. So
Okay, okay, okay.
when I type, all right. Okay.
Then Sorry, the second object completed first. I don't really understand what that's also doing.
Yes, I will explain this later. And remember, we used it here in our ternary operator right here. So just hang on, I'll explain that later.
Okay, so
Next, another question. Yeah, Benedict.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Well, sir. Please, on line 28, I don't understand why the render task was not declared before. It seems to me that you just called it without declaring it. Render task on line 28.
You are confusing me. I declared it. You said that
Eh,
I rendered it or I declared it. I did what? I didn't get that.
no, I mean the name is render task. So this is a method of calling a function. If I'm mistaken, I don't think if I unless I'm mistaken. But you have not declared this render tax before this line 28. So I was wondering why it should be there. Because what I've known before is that you have to inside the function you have to first of all, just like as we have in line 31, the render tax is there now. So I was expecting that before you call it, it has to be under that function, not above the function, something like that.
Okay. So what you are trying to say is that this function is supposed to be up before I can call it here.
Hey, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I've known all this while. I don't know how come this. It's like you are calling the function before you declare the function itself. That is just my own understanding of. I don't
Okay.
know whether I'm just wrong.
Well, somehow you are right, somehow you are wrong. Both of them. Uh, okay, we've not talked about it. There is what we call hoisting in JavaScript, which is not a syntax. Hosting is not a syntax, but it is a way, or it is which grammar. This evening now, grammar not in my brain, so I may not use the right word to express what it is. But it is hoisting explains how JavaScript executes code. All right, and when JavaScript is executing function, it actually calls the function before the declaration. So for the sake of hoisting, this what I did is not wrong. And now remember again that this calling is inside another function. And this is the first function that is called in this our program. So anytime I click on this button, it is this add task function that is called. The add task function takes our input, right? Checks if the input is empty or not, and push whatever we have as our input into our array, and then that task we have typed in need to be displayed on the screen, and it is the render task that handles the displaying of our task to the screen. So immediately that we push, we need to call this function to help us see what we have pushed on the screen. So if I comment out this function now, all right, and I type something here, you won't see it on the screen. All right, why? Because this function that handles that displaying is not being called at the time that I clicked on this button. So that is why we need this here. All right, and that's just it. That's I want just take time and read a little about hosting, though it can be complicated, but just before you read one or two, three articles, you will get to understand what I'm saying. That a function can be anywhere, right? And you call it anywhere. It can be up, you call it down, it can be down, you call it up. Hmm? No, it can be up, you call it down, it can be down, you call it up. Yes, that's grammar is not wrong. So, Mr. Benedict, I hope you understood what I'm saying.
Yes, I thank you, sir.
Okay. Now, if we did not want a function to handle our task render, we can actually get rid of this function and then move all this code inside this function so that when we click this, all of them will execute at the same time. But then that will make our code not to be well organized. It's better we organize them in block using functions so that when something is going on wrong, we can trace it. Add task, if that is the problem, we'll come to the add task block. If it is render, we'll be able to trace it, you see. So there is nothing that stops us from packing all these things, putting all of them inside the same function. It will work, but it's better we separate it to be into different functions to make our code clean and modular according to those that speak the grammar. All right, so I have one last thing that I have to explain. So wait, thought I saw something. Chibundu, your hand is still up.
Sorry, I forgot to drop it.
Okay, now let me answer your question. You asked about this completed, the second argument, the second parameter here. This is just like a state, mm, to check whether our task has been completed or not, and it is initially false, which means at this point, okay, initially the initial state or the default state is false, and down here I'm now saying when you, okay, where did we start that? So this one creates the lists elements, and here we are going to check if the task is completed. All right, we render this, otherwise we render this. So let's try to see how this is going to work. If I change this to true, for example, so if I click, nothing happens. If I do this and I click, do you see what happens? So it's already assuming that a particular task has been completed, and this young man here is putting a strike, a stroke, yes, strike through, stroke through. I don't know. This strike, the line you are seeing on this, remember we are trying to create a to-do list, which means you can mark a list, a task to be completed or incompleted. So if it is completed, it's going to put a line on the task. But if it's not completed, what's going to happen is that it's not going to put a line, it will just give us that particular task. Okay, so that is why we added this. If we're not creating a to-do list, we'll not be needing it. All right, so we'll see it to make more sense when we finish. We are not done yet. Are you getting me now?
Yes. What about that line? Like clearly, that's line 33. ul.inner.html equals to double string. What does that do exactly?
Yes. Well, what it does exactly is it clears our task lists before re-adding. Okay, so let's take for instance, let's comment this out again, and I do a, and it's added, and I do a. I see what is going on. So
Okay.
it makes sure that it clears our element. Let me explain. Let me explain. This guy on YouTube that always explain but never finish explaining. I want to behave like the guy. So let me explain. Let me restart. So we have task A. I click. Okay. So this is one that I added. If I add another one, A, B, and I click, see what happens. This A is still inside, is somewhere, and in the effort to add AB, it is also adding A again. So if I add AC, you will see that it will bring another AB before the AC. Now we have AB before the AC. So what this line is doing is, once you have added AA, clear it up from the memory. Let me use that language. Yes, clear it up from the memory before you add AB, so that AA will not be double, neither will any input be double. So let's get it back. At this point now, if I add AA is added, and now it is cleared from our memory, so to speak. If I add AB is added, is also cleared off. Okay, so what this does is to clear our lists before re-adding. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Benedict,
Sir, sorry, sir. I want to ask about line 35,
we're not
where you
done
have
yet. Okay,
a tax, that is the loop, where you
yeah.
have tax and the index. I think I remember something about that, where that is option at the index, but I don't remember how. Can't remember exactly again, and how this is useful in this case now.
We're not done yet. We're not done
Okay,
creating our to-do list yet. So
okay,
just like the completed false, we are still needing it. The index, we are yet to use it. So let's just be patient until we finish. If you ask, you go ahead and ask your question. So, but if it's a question that is incomplete, I'll let us know, so that when we complete it, then you can see through and then still ask question if you still don't understand. Okay, but for the index, we'll make use of it later. Any other question, please? Ladies and gentlemen, okay, I think we are cleared. Mr. Nuruddin, I hope you are still are you still there? Okay, bless you, bless you. Kunle, Mr. Kunle, bless you. Let me come to this side. They show me 3 in 1. Josephine came in late. Josephine, are we there? Oh, nice one, nice one. Mr. Ahmed, Kilo Day. Nobody wants sleep. Now, wow. Gonna prepare for me today. Okay, that's nice. Thanks, guys. So let's continue. Let's continue. We have a few more things to add. Yeah. Now we are going to add an event listener, and we're going to add a delete button. So where do we add them? Right here. Call this toggle complete. Complete task, and we add the delete button. So let's start with this, and remember, let me add this. Remember, this is a list element, so we're gonna call our list dot add event listener. So when you click on the list, though normally we are supposed to have either something like a checkbox or something more beautiful that we can handle it with CSS, but for now we add event listener to the list items, and then it's gonna be listening to every click, and when it listens to the click, then you pass in your callback function. So when it listens to the click, what exactly is it going to do is now going to say tasks dot no this task is going to access the index. Now this is where we make use of our index here. Remember that array is 0 index dot completed. So now it's going to just use this just look at what I'm going to do here. This, and then come out here, and well, this looks like tautology, but I think it's not. Render tasks, and we call this here. Okay, now let's look at what this can do for us. So if I add this and I click, okay, if I click on it, it gives me the strike through. So what exactly is this line 43 doing? Task index dot completed. Now this index here represents the position of the particular task we are clicking on. So let me add more. Let me add one more. So if I click, so whatever task that I click on, the event listener gets to know the particular task I'm clicking on through the index number. Where, right, and remember that's why we are passing it as a second parameter here. Okay, it returns the task and the index number of the task. So when I click on any task, it's going to use the index number to know when that's the particular task that I'm clicking on, right? And then here is saying if the task is completed. I don't know how to explain this in a simple language. Okay, in a simple language. Just hang on, keep on hanging on. Let's finish and then I will explain the flow. Everybody will
So
understand it for now.
sorry, I think if the task is true before, change it to false, and if it was false before, change it to true, something like that.
God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.
So I don't understand the next function. Is it recalling the function again? How? Like, don't understand what that function is doing there again.
Oh, why this one is here?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see what it's doing there. And let me add, and then I click. I see. As I am clicking, nothing is happening. I'm clicking on it. So it appears that this add event listener is not doing its job, right? So remember what we are doing here is we are calling um it looks as if it doesn't even make sense, but it makes sense. We are calling this function inside itself. Do you understand?
Yes, but I have not completely gotten how that last function is calling itself again to work. Like, just like I read something like whether recurrent, be recurring function. I've forgotten the name of that stuff that they call recurring function, but I don't know how, because once you call that function again, it's supposed to start from the beginning of the function again and go down. I don't know if you get my point.
Yeah, I get your point, but then
Hmm.
let's look at just be patient. I don't want to jump there. If we jump into explaining this type of rendering here, then we will go out of context of what we are doing. So let's finish and get our application functioning first. Then we'll come back
Okay.
to those strange parts and explain them.
All right, sir.
Yeah, but then this line 43, I think you just gave me the right terms. So is inverting these states here, which is by default false. So, all right, so if I change this to true and then I add, by default is going to be false. All right, this particular young man here is going to invert our state here in such a way that here is saying task index completed, then you change it to not completed. If it is by default completed, if it's by default not completed, it will be completed and vice versa. I beg make una just understand that like that. I don't come injure my brain, say. All right, but then I'll bring a better explanation to this. Let's finish. Our toggle task complete is added already. That's what we just did here. Okay, inside these 3 lines of code. And the last thing that we add here now is the delete button. All right, let's add the delete button and then we'll go back to explain some parts that appears to be obscure. So they speak the grammar. So in our HTML, let me add something. In our HTML, we don't have any delete button right here. If I go up here, we don't have any delete. The only button we have is the add task. So we are now going to use JavaScript to create the delete button. Okay, that's the first thing we do. let's call it delete btn, and we're gonna say document dot create elements. Now the element we are going to create is button. Okay, cool. So what should be the text of this button? So the inner text of the button should be let me see if I can, I'm not sure, but let me see if I can get an icon here. I know I know get yeah, from here. Yes, I got you. So let me get this. This should be our button text. All right, and just to make it display better, I'm going to add some CSS. So I'm going to do the style dot margin left. So the margin left is going to be 10 pixels, or maybe 15 pixels, whichever one. Let's put 12 pixels like this. Now we add an event listener to the delete button, and also it's going to listen to clicks. Come on. All right, and we'll give it its befitting callback function this way, and remember it's going to be doing some things from our array. We're going to splice. Okay, all right, this is just to remove stuff from our array, and we're going to remove based on the indexed number. Okay, and then put this like that, and again it's gonna look weird, but it's not weird at all, so we still call this function again. All right, so we are going to add at this point we're gonna append child, and what we're appending now is our delete button. Okay, so let's check what's gonna happen, and yeah. So let's make this maybe 30, no, 30, not 130, something like this. We know it is not the way it's supposed to be, sure. So click, yeah, the margin is just to create space so that I don't get too close. Okay, it's not bad. All right, and if I click, two is gone. Sorry, made a mistake. So if I click, something is wrong. Thing is touching. It is touching. I mean the. Let's figure out where the problem is. Oh yeah, if you delete from the top. All right. Yeah, there's a problem, but we're gonna sort it out. We're gonna sort out the problem. So when you are deleting from the top, it accidentally touches the next item, and that is why it is behaving this way.